Hello, English learners. Welcome back to the Level Up English YouTube channel. My name is Michael, and today I've got a confusing but an important video for you because I'm going to be talking about measurements in the UK. So I want to make clear this is not measurements in English, this is more specifically measurements in the UK because there are some big differences between, for example, the USA and the UK in how we measure things. And in the UK, it is a huge mess. It's a really big mess, and it's very confusing for foreigners who are visiting the country. So you might learn some new words today, but also you might learn how to measure things for maybe your future trip to England or something like that. I'll do my best to explain everything today. I should point out that the information in this video is subject to change, which means in 10 years time or maybe in the future it might be different because it's kind of generational. So a lot of older people will use different measurements, but in the future when there are more younger people growing up, it might be different. So just keep that in mind as we talk today. So I'm going to be talking about imperial and metric measurements. And I'm going to be going over the different topics of measuring things like length, liquids, weights, and maybe that's it. But there's a few things we can talk about here. So most countries around the world use what we call metric, the metric system. Basically, this is when we use like meters or litres and kilometres, and everything's really neatly divided up into hundreds or thousands, right? 1 kilometre is 1,000 metres. It's very, very simple. So this is called the metric system, and this is used, as far as I know, in pretty much all European countries and probably your country as well, right? Sometimes it's used in the UK. We'll come back to that later. The other type of measurements we have are called imperial measurements, or the imperial system. And this is generally a little bit older, and the older generations will use this more. And it's quite common in America, in the USA, and in the UK, and perhaps other countries too that I'm not really aware of. So let's start with imperial, and we're going to start looking at lengths today, measuring the length of something. Let's start from the biggest to the smallest. And we're only going to do the common words today. We're not going to do every single word because that would be like a 2-hour video. But the longest one you might have heard is mile. Mile. 1 mile is about 1.6 kilometers. So it's between 1 and 2 kilometers. It's longer than a kilometer. And this is what we use in the UK for measuring long distances, for example, when driving. In your country, you might use kilometers. In the UK and the USA, we use miles. I believe they say to walk 1 mile takes about 20 minutes, something like that. There's a lot of expressions related to mile as well. For example, to talk a mile a minute. If you think I'm talking too quickly, you can say, Michael, you are talking a mile a minute. Slow down. Okay, making it smaller. The one below, we have a yard. Yard. 1 yard is about 91 centimeters. So it's very, very similar to a meter. It's a little bit smaller than a meter. So if you're asking for directions to like a police officer, they might say, go about 100 yards down the road and you'll find it. Going smaller again, we have foot. It's not exactly the length of your foot, but this is about 30 centimeters. So 1 foot is about the length of a regular sized piece of paper. And this is very common as well. And then the smallest one we're looking at is an inch. This is very common for measuring things. 1 inch is 2.5 centimeters. So the way I was taught in school is it's roughly 2 fingers together, the width of 2 fingers, something like that. That is 1 inch. Similar to that. Depends on the size of your hand, right? Okay, for liquids, We have two today. We have a gallon of water, for example. 1 gallon is 4.5 litres. So 1 gallon is quite a lot. I don't think we use this that often in the UK. I know in America they use it for petrol at the gas station. They have the price in gallons. In England, we don't use gallons, we use litres for that. It's confusing. One you might have heard of, depending on your lifestyle, is pint. 1 pint is 460 millilitres. So it's approximately half a litre, a little bit less, 1 pint. And if you like going to the pub, you will know this one. Because when we order beer, you have a pint of beer, right? So 1 pint is half a litre, roughly. And finally, for weight, we've got 1 pound. A pound can be broken up into ounces. So there are 16 ounces in a pound, but 1 pound in grams is 450 grams. So it's almost half a kilogram. That's 1 pound. 1 ounce is a smaller one, and that's 28 grams. 28 grams is 1 ounce. And again, we have 16 ounces in a pound, right? So they go into each other, but it's a little bit random. You know, why 16? Why 28? It's a bit random. And then the one that confuses many people is stone. So 1 stone is 14 pounds. 1 stone is 14 pounds. In other words, it's 6.3 kilograms. So for example, I am somewhere around 10 stone. My weight is approximately 10 stone, which is approximately 60 kilograms. 10 stone. It's quite strange, isn't it? And probably you're going to be more familiar with the metric system, but let me go over it quickly now. So for length in the metric system, smallest to biggest, we have millimeters, centimeters, meters, and kilometers. So I'll go over these uses in a minute, but let's just go over the pronunciation first of all. For liquid, very simple, we have milliliters, not millimeters, but milliliters. Milli means 1,000, so it's 1,000th of a litre. Then we have litres. We also have this word centiliter, but it's not so common. Usually we just say milliliter or litre. Those are the two most common. And then for weight, we have a milligram, 1,000th of a gram, milligram. Then we have a gram, and then we have a kilogram. So again, heavier and heavier. Milligram, gram, kilogram. So there's that quick, somewhat quick anyway, review of all of those words, metric and imperial. Generally in the UK, older people will use imperial system and younger people will use the metric system. However, this change hasn't really been fully completed. There's a lot of confusion and mix-up, and it largely depends on what you are measuring. In my personal experience, at school, they taught us how to use the metric system, but at home, we were taught how to use the imperial system. And as a result, many people, including me, kind of don't know either of them 100%. We kind of have a 50% knowledge of each one. So it's very confusing. Like I remember when I was a teenager, I wasn't really sure like how big is 1 centimeter? How big is an inch? I had 50% knowledge in each one. It was a big mess. I mean, I'm a little bit better these days. Well, okay, so if you are weighing yourself, you stand on your bathroom scales, you want to see how heavy you are, what do you think you will use? Normally, in the UK, you will use stone. Stone is the most common way, I would say, to weigh yourself in the UK. Again, I am 10 stone, about 60 kilograms. However, I think it's becoming more common to use kilograms just because it's more accurate, right? It's a smaller unit of measurement and therefore we can be more accurate. And it's especially motivating if you want to lose weight. It feels good to go from, 65 kilograms down to 60. 5 kilograms is a lot. But if it's in stone, you can lose 5 kilograms and you're still the same, right? So it's a bit demotivating in that sense. So we use both here, kilograms and stone, to weigh yourself. When you're measuring your height, how tall you are, we generally use feet and inches. Feet and inches. So I don't really remember. I think I am 178 centimeters, if I remember correctly. I might be wrong. It might be 180. I don't know. But if that's true, that is 5'8". We say 5'8". We don't have to say inches here, but you can if you want to. 5'8", which is almost 6 feet, right? So 178 centimeters is 5'8". And I think it's the same in America too. They usually use feet and inches to see how tall they are. So let me know in the comments below, how tall are you in feet and inches? That could be good practice to find out. The next one is cooking. When you're cooking, it's very common to have to weigh things, isn't it? You need some scales, you need to weigh how much sugar or flour or whatever you want to use. And this one, I think it totally depends on the generation. Younger generations, myself included, I hope I can call myself young, will use grams. I always use grams when I'm cooking. This bowl of flour is 400 grams. It's the easiest way for me. My parents and grandparents, however, will use ounces when they're cooking, which is the Imperial System. I have no idea what an ounce is. I've never used ounces in my life, so it doesn't make much sense to me. So cooking, it depends on your age, but I would recommend using grams. Keep it simple. When you go in the supermarket and you're looking for products, that's usually going to be the metric system as well. So you will either see weight in grams, this bag of flour is 1 kilogram, or you will see liquid in liters. You can buy a litre of Coke or 500 milliliters of water. So this is the metric system, nice and simple. I guess more of a universal one, right? When we're talking about distances on the road when you're driving, as I mentioned, it's in miles and yards. Miles and yards. Yards are not so common, it's not very common that you need to measure how many yards, but you might see a sign that says roundabout in 100 yards or something like that. But yeah, miles is the important one that you need to get used to. So for distances, we use Imperial System. As I said before, for liquids, we use litres, and this includes petrol. When you go to the petrol station, you put petrol into your car, it's litres. You pay by the litre of petrol, right? So most liquids in England will be litres. I say England, but I think it's the whole of the UK, but I can only say England for sure because that's where I'm from. However, actually, there are some exceptions to the liquid rule. For example, milk. I don't know why. We generally use Imperial System for milk. So you might see, a pint of milk or something like that. And it's the same for beer, right? A pint of beer, a pint of milk, a gallon of milk. A really big bottle could be a gallon of milk. But really, why do you need that much milk? What are you doing? And speaking of beer, we also have this word half pint. So if you don't want a full big pint of beer, you might have a half pint, which is approximately 250 milliliters. So if you're not a big drinker and you want to go to the pub, you can order a half pint of beer and face a little bit of embarrassment and ridicule from the people around you. Finally, the situation I want to talk about is measuring the length of an item. Not yourself, but say if you are shopping for furniture or you're buying some wood for a project and you want to measure how long the wood is. I think this depends as well. It totally depends. Maybe on the generation, but also how accurate you want to be. If you're just making an approximate measurement, you might use inches. Yeah, this desk is 40 inches long, 40 inches. It doesn't have to be so precise. If you want to be really precise, we would generally use millimeters or centimeters. Generally, if it's a big thing like a desk, you would say 80 centimeters. If it's a small thing, like the end of a piece of wood, you might say 50 millimeters. So it depends on how accurate you want to be, but you can use both, metric or imperial. One final point, by the way, you will be happy to hear that we use Celsius to measure temperature in the UK. So unless you're going to the USA, you do not need to learn Fahrenheit. We use Celsius as well. Okay, this has probably turned out to be quite a long video. There's a lot of information here, isn't there? But I hope you found it useful. Maybe you've learned some English, you've learned some pronunciation, but more importantly, I hope you've learned how to be prepared for a future trip to the UK. Did I clear anything up for you? Or did I make it more confusing? I don't know, but let me know in the comments and I'll be happy to answer any more questions. But thank you for watching today. I hope you enjoyed it and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye for today. If you're interested, you can check out the full lesson for this YouTube video, where you can find live subtitles, worksheets, more detailed explanations, quizzes, and teacher feedback, and all of this around this video at Level Up English members. So if you're interested in that, you can click the link in the description or go to levelupenglish.school and go to the members page to sign up. I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope you find the bonus worksheets helpful as well. Thank you for watching.